In all professions, there are unscrupulous individuals. The world contains unscrupulous individuals. When a profession depends on trust of the public for donation, when a profession is a medical one, caring, seeking care for all, then unscrupulous individuals are creating more than a problem. They're jeopardizing the activity. And that profession has to react. And that's the story of the Istanbul Declaration. It's a beautiful example. We just saw the definition, organ trafficking. I don't repeat it. But remember, in particular, the last point, outside of the established domestic system, the community needs its organization. If it's happened outside, it's trafficking. Transplantarism has been well defined. What do we see? That's an old set of slides, but never mind, I'll manage. It's not the new one I put in. Never mind. What do we see? Well, we see that humanity is one. That you can see kidneys on the other side of the world for good or bad reasons. You see that the global village, and we know of a case where histocompatibility was done in Australia. The donor was supposed to come from East Africa and the transplantation to take place in Latin America. The power of money, the driving force. We see the living donor as a target. It's so easy for a living individual. Deceased donor, you need a system. You need an agreement. You need a will of the community. Living donor, you just have to find the vulnerable one. We see the value of law. We see the value of enforcement. And the need for an alternative. That's the way forward. The individual is the patient, is the donor, but it depends on society. And the responsibility is that of the states. And that global village implies that there must be a global governance. And as the state has responsibility, laws, regulation, norms, policies, organization, oversight, monitoring, there are functions that needs to be applied globally. There is a need for traceability, for example, when medical products of human origin travel across boundaries. There is a need for vigilance and surveillance. Let's use the experience of your neighbor. We don't need to try all the wrong thing before understanding. We need also to be inspired by evidence produced collectively. It will be quicker and faster to understand what pays. It will be important to have the same language to the public around the globe. The global village, culture in countries, there is a need for harmonization. There is a need, and how can you achieve this? Through governmental organization, regional, global, international, or non-governmental organization? And what is happening with the Declaration of Istanbul is one of the most exceptional example of professional undertaking a task of global governance. It started in Brazil. It started in 2007 at the World Congress of Nephrology. There was a session on transplantarism. Professor Francis Del Monico and myself. And at that time, Bill Kauser, Norbert Lemaire, the International Society of Nephrology leadership realized the importance of moving forward. And with the process prepared in Dubai, and the chairman was there representing Brazil, the meeting, the summit as it was called, took place in Istanbul, thus the Declaration of Istanbul. 78 countries, 152 participants. This led, after discussions, to an outcome. Who do we owe that outcome to? To this gentleman, Francis Delmonico. And I'm coming back to him again. Sorry. The collective will needs to be funneled, facilitated. And with the help of everyone, Frank Delmonico managed to deliver the Declaration of Istanbul. It's based on the WHO resolution. It stems from what Jose Nunes explained to you. Thank you very much. It has been published in The Lancet in 2007, in 2009. Am I right? Yes, that was in my other slide. Let's go through the content. The Declaration of Istanbul, based on WHO principles, identified the need to increase disease donation to respond to the needs by increasing donation after death, by protecting the living donor, while recognizing them, not seeing them as instruments for commercial transplantation. Involves the authorities. Neither WHO nor professional are the police. There is the need for an involvement of society, of transparency. In collaboration with civil society, there should be a comprehensive program towards the advancement of understanding of issues, clinical basic science, effective program to treat as much as possible patients in end-stage kidney disease, for example, to minimize morbidity, mortality. Organ transplantation is the preferred treatment, but should be minimized. And prevention is an important component in the Declaration of Istanbul. Legislation should be developed to govern the recovery of organs from deceased and living donor. And this is spelled out, policy, procedures, practice of donation and transplantation with its oversight. And the importance of education, the public awareness, not only of the public, but of professionals, directly involved or not. And last but not least, these words are key: identified responsibility. Who should be accountable? And this is often not well identified in donation and transplantation services. The equity of allocation glares out in the Declaration of Istanbul. Promoting the health of donors and recipients. Associating countries and regions towards achieving self-sufficiency. The word self-sufficiency in organ donation and transplantation came in around that time. And from Istanbul, we developed the work that led to the self-sufficiency paradigm outlined by Jose, but on which I would like to come back. There is the triangle: the donor, the patient, the professional, through whom the patient will become a recipient. And this is society. And society has its own values: reciprocity, solidarity, and the principle of that paradigm spells the importance of government responsibility and the effective organization, the commitment translated in practice, the investment. Equity, not only in allocation, but in the burden of donation among possible donors. Education, to donation, but also to prevention. And remember, media are interested in transplantation, in donation. Media are rarely interested in prevention. Transplantation is one way to bring in a Trojan horse, to bring in health education to donation. Trust of the public, and trust of the public comes from transparency and professionalism. And for organ, that translates into legal framework, national health plan, including donation and transplantation, organ donation in as many circumstances of death as possible, comprehensive management of chronic kidney disease, health and death in civic education. Health and death in civic education. Yes, the reality that can be taught, that needs to be learned. Media associated to donation and transplantation system. The idea is that donation is a civic gesture, an expectation, not an exception. The Declaration of Istanbul, made by professional, the International Society of Nephrology, the Transplantation Society, was submitted to the community of professionals and endorsed massively. More than 80 professional societies, governmental institutions endorsed it. What does this mean, endorsing the Declaration of Istanbul? There's suggestions for this. It requires that, for example, speakers at scientific and educational meetings disclose whether their work is in consistency with the principle of the Declaration of Istanbul, or have established mechanism for determining the appropriateness of accepting presentation from countries known to where practices not in conformity of the Declaration of Istanbul are taking place. And of course, mechanism to promote, implement, and uphold the Declaration. There's the website. I hope you've been there, declarationofistanbul.org, all attached. The website offers a number of tools developed by the Declaration of Istanbul custodian group, ongoing work. It's not a declaration of one day, it's a permanent task undertaken by the custodian group and emissaries. One of the outcomes is that patient brochure explaining why you should ask yourself a few questions before thinking about acquiring a kidney abroad. What is at stake? What are the risks for the patient thinking of doing this? That brochure is translated. You can download it from the website in all these languages. It also translates in scientific and professional journal adopting the Declaration of Istanbul, just like they did with the Declaration of Helsinki. And this is the example of the Experimental and Clinical Transplantation Journal, an e-journal which is the media of the Middle East Society of Organ Transplantation. The journal expects that all procedure, etc., will be in accordance with the ethical standards laid down in the Helsinki Declaration as well as the Declaration of Istanbul. And it's an ongoing work with Declaration of Istanbul champions in Vietnam. The lady on the right is the Vice Minister of Health. In Costa Rica, in Bolivia, in China, The lady in blue is the Minister of Health, Mrs. Binley. You've heard about how the Declaration of Istanbul has been effective in Israel. And it's professional taking their place, professional working with authorities, professional working with WHO, professional demonstrating to the public that the trust they ask from him is deserved. It's the legacy of transplantation. Recently, the fifth anniversary of the Declaration of Istanbul was celebrated in Doha, because in Doha, in that rich Emirates, there is a system negotiated by Istanbul Declaration professionals that is equitable in donation and in transplantation. And in Doha, a communique reaffirmed the importance of the principle of Istanbul, insisted on the need to abide by WHO guiding principles and the Resolution 63.22. Put forward the self-sufficiency paradigm, reaffirm the importance of deceased donation, of the role of physician to identify and report, accountability, cooperates with organization for the procurement and medical use of all products of human origin. It's the same whether it's hematopoietic stem cell, blood for transfusion, tissue donation, or organs. Trafficking, transplant tourism, commercialism, whether for these medical products of human origin, it's about self-sufficiency, but it's about working together before anything. And this Declaration of Istanbul success is the demonstration of the efficacy of working together. Thank you very much.
Então, nós estamos autorizados a 2 ou, no máximo, 3 perguntas muito objetivas para os palestrantes.
Meu nome é Ricardo, sou médico do Rio Grande do Sul. Eu gostaria de fazer uma pergunta à mesa e também especificar uma referência que você, Ramon, comentou. Se o meu espanhol estiver bom, eu entendi que o paciente que foi comprar um fígado a 130 mil euros, na sua argumentação, ele também deveria ser, entre aspas, punido ou se submetido às rigores da lei por ter ido comprar o órgão. Estou correto? Mas se nós nos colocarmos na posição desse paciente e de qualquer outro que está na fila, ele está no desespero, na busca da sua sobrevivência. Se um filho meu, se um familiar meu estiver no risco iminente de morte, farei tudo o que for possível pela sua vida. Pergunta: como nos posicionarmos nos posicionarmos para puni-lo, embora ele tenha razão de buscar a sua sobrevivência?
Agradezco la pregunta porque yo creo que va a un terreno que es bastante claro. No todo es válido. La supervivencia de una persona para que yo mismo o un familiar mío sobreviva por una enfermedad que, si tiene solución, porque estamos hablando de un paciente que está buscando una solución a una situación desesperada, donde ya ha sido evaluado por profesionales que le pueden ofrecer una alternativa, que le han ofrecido una alternativa, pero que desgraciadamente no pasa por un trasplante. De tal forma que yo entiendo que en un momento determinado la desesperación le pueda llevar a alguien a pensar en la posibilidad de realizar algo, pero ese algo nunca debe ser ilícito, nunca debe ser ilegal y sobre todo nunca debe ir en contra de la dignidad de otras personas. Mi propio beneficio no puede ir en contra de un ser que desgraciadamente tiene una situación desfavorecida. Mi situación de privilegio económico, personal, social, no lo puedo utilizar en mi propio beneficio, ni en este ni en ningún otro terreno. Eso entramos en el terreno de lo no ético, lo no moral, lo no como queramos llamar. No todo es válido, ni siquiera para preservar la vida.
This extreme distress you described is not well communicated. I recently heard someone who's been in this situation and who reminded me how intense, how dramatic this is. And we should bridge that gap. It should be shared with everyone. The mechanism should be solidarity, reciprocity through the community. There are by far enough organs viable, functional after the death of their owners to meet all needs. And yet they are buried or incinerated. These are strong motivations. We should find the way to convey it. And we're not as good as we should there.
Não dá para ver. Tem, Éder?
Na realidade, não vou fazer perguntas, apenas agradecer. Vejam que em todos os exemplos mostrados nas duas apresentações brilhantes dos nossos colegas da OMS, felizmente, o Brasil não está nesse mapa. E essa foi a ideia de colocar essa mesa aqui no Congresso do SNT. Porque tivemos no passado exemplos como esse, mas é fundamental que na América Latina, sobretudo no maior país da América Latina, nós mantenhamos alta essa responsabilidade de não deixar proliferar o turismo de transplantes ou o tráfico de órgãos. Nós temos muito orgulho do que foi construído aqui e eu queria, em nome do Ministério da Saúde, agradecer profundamente ao Dr. Luc Noel, que acorreu aqui ao nosso convite. Pra vocês terem uma ideia, a agenda, ele vai permanecer para um evento sobre biovigilância até no domingo, quer dizer, vai ficar até segunda, vai ficar alguns dias conosco, e o Dr. José Ramon também deverá ficar, depois de ter vindo de um congresso também em Buenos Aires. Então, é muito importante a gente fazer esse agradecimento de público, apesar que o público já não é tão grande, mas muito obrigado a vocês terem vindo e contem com o Brasil na luta que a Organização Mundial de Saúde desempenha em relação tanto ao combate ao turismo de transplante quanto ao tráfico de órgãos. Muito obrigado a vocês.
Então, muito obrigado a todos e eu passo a palavra para o nosso mestre de cerimônia. Thank you, Luc. Thank you, José.